Yeah, yeah. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen of Knucklehead Nation, welcome to episode 8 of Keeping It Clean with Manny Robles. I'm your host, the FightersRep, along with your co-host, the legendary, and for now, the king of Las Vegas, Manny Robles. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, George.
Man,
Happy to be in Vegas once again. Happy to be on the show. Happy to be doing a show from Las Vegas, man. I'm excited about that. I'm pumped up.
and it's very exciting because, this show, episode 8, we're talking about you being in Mikaela Mayer's corner.
Correct.
We're going to be talking about, Dillian Whyte seemingly splitting from his longtime coach, Mark Tibbs, while on the verge of taking on Povetkin. So I definitely want to get your thoughts on that. And it sounds like Vergil Ortiz, Coach Manny, a guy we've been talking about, a fantastic prospect, is getting
hmm
antsy. And he's talking about he wants to fight Terence Bud Crawford.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, so we definitely
Yeah. Oh yeah.
got some juice today, Manny. But first and foremost, how are you doing, and how is it out there in Vegas? Kind of tell me what's going on out there.
Well, I got here yesterday, right around 5 p.m. or so. I drove in. I didn't want to fly. I didn't want to, get on the plane and be next to anyone. So I
Right,
rented
right.
a car and drove out here just to play it safe. And I just didn't want anything to go wrong. You know what I mean? I tested for the COVID virus back home. I was negative. Again, they got you testing out here on a daily basis. Got in yesterday, tested positive. I just tested about an hour ago, maybe, and tested again and wait for my results again tomorrow. But,
Wait a minute, Manny. Wait a minute. You said you tested positive there. I just want to be sure you
oh,
said
shoot, I
that
tested, did I say
right.
negative?
you said yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, it's positive that you tested negative,
It's
brother.
positive that I tested negative. There you go. Because it's positive. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but always thinking positive on it's a good thing, but not in this case, right?
For sure, for
Positive is
sure.
positive is negative.
Yes, yes, yes.
I tested negative last night, and again tested again today, so I should get my results tomorrow. And yeah, we're here in Vegas, man. I mean, it's kind of lonely, and when I got in, I didn't see a whole lot of people. But then again, I haven't been able to leave the room because once you check in, once you get to your room, you're part of what they call the bubble,
Yeah.
so you can't leave the premises. Like we're all staying on the 12th floor of the MGM Grand, and when I say we're all staying, I mean everybody.
Yeah.
The all the boxing teams, including the fighters and coaches and the cutmen and promoters, everybody that's got something to do with the promotional company, the TV, security, we're all staying here. We're like in a prison, you know what I mean? Like we can't leave, we can't go any place, and the only place we can leave to is like they set up a cafeteria for us, and that's where the arena's at. The arena, the cafeteria, the doctors, the everything, the offices for TV for the promoters are all in one place at the bubble. So it's
Gotcha.
like again, this is all part of a bubble, which I am experiencing for the first time, and it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting, but it's definitely different. We got to be wearing a mask, of course, and just playing it safe.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you've been tested twice already, you said, Manny?
Yeah, well, I tested before I came out here. I tested. I think I tested Tuesday. I got my results by Thursday, and then okay, great, come on over. I get here yesterday, and right away I tested yesterday. Pretty much as soon as I got here, I checked in, got in my room. Hey, you got to go test, and then again today, just now, just about an hour ago, and that's it. So 3 times in 1 week.
Wow, wow. And do you still have a test to go before the fight
No,
tomorrow, or?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I probably, even if I test it tomorrow, I probably wouldn't get my results until I went home. So
Gotcha.
I doubt it, though. I doubt it. I think this was the last one.
Manny, that test, I gotta be honest with you, does not look comfortable. Tell me about tell me
It's
about
not
that
comfortable at
test.
all. It isn't comfortable at all, man. They got this nasal one that I did back home, the cotton swab that they stick up your nose.
Yeah.
Horrible, man. I hate that. Oh man. And
And
then this one isn't any better because this one, it's not as bad as the nasal one, but they make you stick out your tongue and they stick a stick up your throat, like with the swab, and that's not too comforting either. But it's better than the nasal one, I'll tell you that much.
well,
And then there's
that's
the blood one. There's the blood one where they put, they take blood from, they take blood from you. So that's, if you don't like needles, that's not too pleasant either.
so which are the ones, I mean, in the bubble right now, which are the ones they made you
Well,
go through?
the bubble's only the throat one.
Got you, got
Yeah,
you. Okay, okay.
yeah.
So that definitely sounds like a different experience. And speaking of the bubble, Manny, before we continue, we got some pretty whack news
Right.
about California today, our home base, me and you. It looks like they're kind of shutting everything down. They're gonna shutting everything down again. They're gonna let gyms and other businesses like that continue as long as it's outdoors. But it looks like they're
Yeah.
gonna be restricting us again indoors. So that's a tough break for us, man.
Woo, yes, it is, man. We're gonna have to figure that one out once again. But we got to do what we, I mean, anything to get ourselves back on our feet. If that means closing down gyms and businesses and whatnot, then we got to learn our lesson. I think we all, as a community, as a whole, we have to learn our lesson and we have to, take the necessary measures and obey the law, obey what they're asking us to do. You know what I mean? Whatever that is, it's for our own good, it's for our own benefit. It's to be able to, again, get back to work, get back on our feet again, get people back working again. But if we don't do what's right, then we're gonna get stuck in this situation for a while.
Yeah, and I mean it's definitely kind of crazy. If anybody's feeling any kind of way, you could always reach out. Reach out to us, tell us how you're feeling. We're open to
Yeah.
hear what you guys have to say. I mean, because Manny, what is it, 4 or 5 months into this thing, and it's almost like we're going back to square
Oh
one.
man, it was supposed to be a 4 or 5 week situation. Remember that?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, it's 4 or 5 weeks now. It's been what? It's
man.
been 4 months, I guess. I mean, it's not a good feeling, man. Not a good feeling at all. At all.
It's wild. We've got real quick Marcus Lloyd in the chat. He says, "Saludos, Coach Manny from Pau Pau."
Órale, that's right. Okay, all
Saludos,
right.
saludos, Marcus. Appreciate you joining us today and everybody else joining us in the
From
chat.
Pow Pow.
It says Pow Pow. I thought Paw
Okay, I
Paw. It
think
says
that's
Pow
I think
Pow.
that's his son. This is little kid. They call him Pow Pow. Man,
Oh,
he's
okay.
something else, man.
Okay,
If that's
okay.
if that's if that's who that is, then he's a special talent. He's a kid must be about 9, 10 years old, but he's incredible. Got incredible boxing talent,
I love that. Out here in California, Manny?
sir. I think
Very
they're I
cool.
think, I think they're from none other than East LA, if I'm not mistaken.
Ah, there you go. Hotbed of talent.
That's right.
Before I continue, Manny, I wanted to give also a special shout out to our newest sponsor, Foxhound Fuel, man. Their link is down below. Their link is down below in the description. They're sponsoring Fighters Rep. They've been sponsoring Fighters Rep fights for quite a while as Joybird, but now they're Foxhound Fuel specifically designed for fighters, Manny. They've got pre-workout, post-workout hydration mixes for fighters. Again, specifically designed for fighters, all natural.
I just got my box in the mail. I should have brought it with me.
I love it.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I heard they did send some products over to you as well, which I
Yeah, they
love.
did. Yeah, they're taking care of me. Yeah.
I love it. So big shout out to Foxhound guys, and they go live officially in 2 days. So if you guys use the code FightersRep 15. You'll get 15% off any product they have. So I just wanted to plug them real quick, Manny, before we
Right on.
continue this conversation. So, Manny, you know, an incredible turn of events, and again, related to this thing with legs, as you say, this COVID.
It's got legs, yeah. It walks. It's got legs, man. This thing walks.
And it walked all over tomorrow's main event, Manny, because Jamel Herring, who, you know, I guess was positive and then no longer had it and now is positive again, it looks like he's been dislodged as tomorrow's main event, and none other than Mikaela Mayer is now the new main event for tomorrow, with none other than, you know, the pride of Jalisco, Guadalajara in her corner, Manny Robles. So, I mean, kind of tell me what's going on through your mind, you know, being the late notice main event and being asked to go out there and help Mikaela Mayer.
Yeah, well, I feel bad for Jamel. He's a great friend of mine. You know, I worked with him in what is it, 2011, 2012 with the USA team. Great kid. He's a world champion now, former Olympian. He's on the card. He's scheduled to be the main event, but unfortunately, he showed traces of the COVID virus, and so therefore he's out the card. He was gonna, about a month ago, about 4 weeks ago or so, he was gonna fight on a card here in Vegas.
Yeah.
Tested positive for the coronavirus, sent him home, but we're all learning from this.
Right.
So
right.
as you can see, this only happened 4 weeks, but at the most 4 weeks, maybe three, maybe 4. I don't know. But he was scheduled to be on a card. He tested positive, out of the card. They got him back in on this card, and he showed negative back up. But maybe it was too soon.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
It can also maybe, you know, be a false positive sometimes. I mean, who knows
No,
what's going on with these tests?
So. But look, if it's a false positive, then maybe you should go get tested somewhere else, or get a second opinion.
Yeah.
If you didn't already. But it's a shame that for the second time he's out of the card. You know.
Yeah.
Understanding what fighters go through as hard as they work, particularly him, that he's a world champion. You know, this kid wants to defend his world title. He hasn't been able to fight, of course, because of the whole situation with the coronavirus, and getting his fight postponed again for a second time. He's got to feel lousy. And then not only that, making weight, man. You know, the struggles that the fighter has to go through to make weight, and then you test negative, and then you test positive. There I go again. You test positive, and you can't be on. You know, you're out the card. I mean, it's horrible.
Yeah.
I feel for the kid. I definitely feel for him.
Definitely, you know, WBO junior lightweight champ Jamel Herring, and, you know, unfortunately, he's not going to get to defend his title. He was scheduled to face Jonathan Oquendo.
Cool. Good, decent fighter, yeah. So it's gonna be fun, man. But unfortunately, due to the circumstances. But now, with that said, now Mikaela has been bumped up to the main event. This was a last minute thing, of course. You know, just found out about Jamel a few hours ago, and then, you know, they gave us the news. Hey, guess what? You're the main event now. So she's happy about it. You know, she's happy to be the main event, of course. But she feels bad. We all feel bad for Jamel because, you know, he's our friend. You know, and you know, even if he wasn't, I mean, you got to feel bad for any individual that's a world champion that's worked as hard as he has to be on this card, and all of a sudden get pulled off the card because of the coronavirus.
Absolutely, and, you know, a bit of a similar situation with Mikaela. I mean, she was scheduled to fight about a month ago, Manny. It didn't.
A little bit more than a month. I think she was gonna fight before Jamel.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
She had more time to recover. Yeah.
I see, and that didn't happen. But, you know, it looks like now, you know, good things have come to those who wait.
Right.
She's going to be taking on, you know, a Helen Joseph.
Yeah.
What do you know about Joseph, if anything, Manny?
From my understanding, she's a tough fighter. This will probably be the toughest fight to date Mikaela will have. This is a tough opponent, and she's ready for her. Michaela's a very very talented fighter herself, and she works extremely hard. She lives in Colorado Springs, Colorado Springs, which is high altitude. I believe it's about 6,000 feet above sea level, the city.
Wow.
So you don't have to worry about her getting tired, and she's in great shape. She's in great spirits.
For sure. And, Mikaela Mayer, for those that don't know, a 2016 U.S. Olympian, Los Angeles native, just 30 years old, Manny. I mean, do you think she's just heading into her prime now, or what do you think about Mikaela?
I think so. I think so because she takes care of her body. She takes care of herself, and she's a healthy person. She's an extremely hard worker. So she treats herself right. And she lives in Colorado Springs. She doesn't live in a big city like L.A., New York City, where there's a lot of distractions. So she's got her head straight. She's got her head on right.
And again, she's taking on Helen Joseph, I believe a Nigerian-born fighter. 17-4-2 with 10 knockouts, Manny, in those 17 wins. So, looks like a pretty strong girl.
She's a tough cookie, no doubt. But I believe Mikaela's ready for this fight, and she'll be one step closer to fighting for a world title. Hopefully, by the end of the year, she'll get a shot at a world title or early next year.
Right, and then I asked you this kind of off the show, but I obviously the public will want to know. I mean, what's your connection to Mikaela, and why are they calling you in? If you can share that, Manny.
I've been in her corner from day one. They took me in. And they're cut men. I wrap her hands. I work her cuts because I do that too. It's not my cup of tea, but I do it when I have to or for my fighters. Some of my fighters, not all. But I've been doing this for a while. It's if you're involved in boxing, man, you gotta, for as long as I've been involved, and as long as I've been doing it, you gotta know how to do everything. So I'm a jack of all trades. You know what I mean? I'm a coach, but then again, I know I can work cuts, wrap hands. So she loves the way I wrap her hands, and she says she says I'm never using anybody else, only you.
Wow.
And of course, her coach, which is Coach Al Mitchell, that's her head coach. Unfortunately, he tested positive for the coronavirus, and he asked me to fill in his shoes. Those are pretty big shoes to fill. If you get what I mean.
Gotcha.
He's one of my mentors, one of my teachers, someone that I respect, the utmost, someone that I have the utmost respect for. And he asked me to fill in because he wasn't going to make it. And I said, of course, coach. Are you kidding me? Be my pleasure. So here I am. And Coach K will be the head coach. I'll be the assistant coach. And, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm here to serve and to help, and so hopefully things will go well tomorrow.
Now, Manny, you told me you haven't been in Vegas for quite a while. How does it feel to kind of be back there and to be working a corner again, brother?
Well, I feel like a kid with a new toy. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Listen, I haven't worked a fight. And I haven't been in Vegas since February, but I haven't worked a fight since February, which is I was here for the Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury fight.
Wow!
Remember, I had the co-main event with we had the co-main event with Charles Martin.
Right.
And that's the last fight I worked. I had ever since then. Let me tell you something. Ever since then, I've had about 10 fights canceled. For the freaking coronavirus, we had about 10. I've had about 10 fights canceled or postponed or something, but they've all had something to do with the coronavirus, unfortunately. And now I'm back. So many months later. So it's I gotta get going again. You know what I mean?
And I'm definitely glad to see you back in there doing what you love, Manny. I know you were having a bit of a withdrawal from boxing for a while there, bro.
Yeah, I've been in the gym and training my boxers but I've been missing out on these shows. So plus I was curious to see what this was all about. Like the whole bubble situation, being in the bubble
Yeah.
thing was like. So yeah, I'm experiencing that for the first time. So hopefully not for too long, where we can all just get back to normal, man. But like I said, we all gotta you know do what's right before that can happen.
For sure, for sure. Big shout out to Davey L in the chat. He says the tests are 75 to 80% correct, which is, kind of. He made that remark after we were talking about some of the false positives.
Yep.
So, I appreciate you chiming in, Davey L. If you guys have any questions for me and Manny, definitely just pop them into the chat. We'll answer them closer to the end of the show. Manny, so, does it look to you like you're going to be repeating the successful experience that you had the last time you were there for the Wilder Fury 2 undercard with Prince Charles Martin?
Good question. I sure hope so. I'm the type of person that never likes to get ahead of himself. You know what I mean? We still got to fight the fight. You know, and obviously we're confident that Mikaela's going to go out there and perform to the best of her ability, and that at the end of the night get her hand raised. But hey, listen, the opponent's looking for the same thing.
Right.
The opponent's looking to come down to spoil the party. You know what I mean? And that's what we got to be ready, and not get ahead of ourselves. We got to go out there and fight the fight, as I said.
Absolutely, and I definitely look forward to watching you on the tube tomorrow, brother. I wanted to go on to the next topic real quick, Manny. Dillian Whyte, it looks like he's kind of had a falling out with his coach, Mark Tibbs, a guy who I think, has done quite a bit to improve his career, change it for the better for sure. I think the Dillian Whyte we've been seeing in the past few years is quite an advancement from the Dillian Whyte we saw against Anthony Joshua the time they fought, which, he was still good, but, he's improved by leaps and bounds. And the crazy part about this for me, Manny, is his fight with Povetkin is on August 22nd. It's just over a month out. So, what are kind of your thoughts on a fighter, splitting from his coach just a month out, being in Dillian Whyte's situation?
Tough. It's tough for the coach, because I'm a coach, and unfortunately for us coaches, there's never a guaranteed. There's never a guarantee for anything. We're not even guaranteed getting paid. Are you kidding me?
Oh man.
Because unfortunately, it's the we're never on contract. Most of us are not on contract. Everything is by word. So obviously, if you're expecting, look at him. With about a month before the fight, a month and weeks before the fight, all of a sudden he gets fired for whatever reason. I don't know what happened, but it's sad. It sucks. And on the other hand, for Dillian Whyte, we don't know what's going on. We really can't say what happened or why this is happening. Look at what Tyson Fury did with his last coach.
Right.
And this was about 2 months before the fight versus Wilder.
Yeah.
And so they everybody has their reasons. I'm sure he has his. They both, I'm sure, Dillian Whyte has his reasons why. But that's curious to know why that is. Was it a good idea? I don't know. Maybe things weren't working out. Maybe the chemistry wasn't there anymore. There's many different things as to why, they could have broken up, or that relationship could have, went down south. But I put myself in the coach's position, of course, being a coach myself, and knowing that sometimes you put in all that work, you put in all that hard work with the fighter, and all of a sudden you're let go. It's not a good feeling, I'll tell you that much.
So you're saying that's happened to you before, Manny?
Absolutely. I think it's happened to, a lot of us coaches out there, at every level.
Yeah.
Not only at a professional level, but at every level. Sometimes you'll build a fighter. Even coaches that work with amateur fighters, that they'll build an amateur fighter, that is, and get them to a good situation where they're they'll develop the fighter. The fighter will eventually win some tournaments, Golden Gloves, Silver Gloves, Junior Olympics, whatever amateur tournaments are out there, to build a resume along with this coach. And all of a sudden, when it's time to go pro, they feel like they don't need their coaches anymore. I don't need you anymore because you're not on contract. Everything is done from the heart,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And then you're not on contract, or maybe the manager, the promoter doesn't feel. I shouldn't say the promoter, because promoters normally don't interfere with who the fighters work with. It's usually the fighter or the manager. The manager will come in and might say, "Hey, listen, you need a new coach. You can't be with this guy anymore." You know what I mean? You need a professional coach, and then they'll end up letting you go. They won't give you the chance. They won't give the opportunity. I seen it. We should have a show on this particular subject, because, I mean,
You've seen this quite a bit, and I said it sarcastically when I said, is it something you've experienced before? Because
you did, yeah.
a couple, I think it happens to every coach, like you say, but I mean, you've definitely had a couple guys, off the top of my head that I can think of, leave despite,
Right.
what I thought was a great situation,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah, and again, it happens to the best coaches out there.
Yeah.
It happened to Abel Sanchez.
Right.
It's
right.
happened to Robert Garcia. It's happened to me. It's happened to Joel Diaz, and they can sit here and tell you the same thing. I mean, it's happened to us all. But you got to grow thick skin in this sport, particularly as coaches, because we always end up on the short end of the stick. That's why this is one of the reasons why I've decided to, I have my own business, my own corporation with the LBA Legends, and I'm building I'm trying to build something, trying to build a management team, so this doesn't continue to happen to me.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
But then at the same time, I'm not doing it just for me. I'm also doing it for the fighter, right?
Right.
Because a lot of fighters, unfortunately, they get screwed by a lot of these so-called managers, where they end up, taking advantage of the fighters for a large percentage, for a big percentage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you see some of these fighters end up going home with half their purse.
Man.
You know what I mean? It's
That's
shameful.
wild. That's wild.
It's shameful. So this is one of the reasons why I also want to manage, to take care of the fighters and to protect myself, and not allow for this situations to continue happening to me. And then by the way, if I manage, yes, and there's a couple fighters that I manage. If I manage, and if I take interest in a boxer, if I take interest in an amateur fighter, an amateur standout that I would like to sign, the last thing I'm gonna do is let go of his coach.
Right.
Because he got him there, he built him there. How could I do that? And then me being a coach myself, if anything, what you would do is, if you feel like you need an extra set of hands to work with that particular fighter, you bring somebody else. You bring somebody else in, maybe someone that has more experience as a professional coach, to work alongside with the boxer and his coach.
Yeah.
To teach not only the fighter but also the coach, so we can grow together as a team, because we're all looking for the same thing anyway, which is to ultimately at one day win a world title.
Absolutely. And, speaking of Legends Boxing Academy, which is your company, your management company, Manny, big shout out to Legends. The logo is up in the left-hand corner. You're rocking that the Fly Legends Boxing Academy t-shirt.
Trying to represent, that's right.
And, you can follow Legends Boxing Academy at LBA Legends on Instagram. That's LBA Legends on Instagram. You could also follow Manny at Manuel.boxing on Instagram, any big time boxers or even, guys that are interested in kind of being managed, having someone experienced in their corner, you could reach out to Manny at either one of
Yes, sir.
those handles.
Absolutely.
Uh, Manny, the thing for me about the whole Dillian Whyte situation that kind of scares me, is he didn't look like himself because of the circumstances in that last fight against Wak. I think he
Hmm.
was going through it. Honestly, I think he was probably going through a depression from from the whole drug testing debacle that the British Board of Boxing, had kind of accused him of, which eventually got, swept under the rug. He gained a ton of weight. He didn't look like himself. Yeah,
He did.
yeah,
Exactly. He did.
he didn't look like himself, and to go from that to fighting a dangerous guy, in Povetkin, and breaking off from your coach, it's just it kind of worries me. You know what I mean?
I got Dillian Whyte. I got
Yeah,
Dillian Whyte winning this fight.
I
I
I
think he
think
has
so
enough
too.
experience. I think he has enough experience to get through Povetkin. Povetkin's a tough cookie, but I think he's past his prime. I think he's definitely past his prime. He's in it. I think he's about 42, 43 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And he didn't look too hot in his last fight either. He
Right,
got a draw versus
Michael Hunter, I think it
Michael
was.
Hunter, and I believe Michael Hunter won that fight. So
Right,
he
right,
got a nice little draw on that fight.
and
But Dylan White, I see him winning.
I agree. I mean, I see Dillian Whyte winning. I just don't like the fact, Manny. Like you said, anything can happen in boxing, right? And Povetkin's still a dangerous guy. So the way I'm looking at it is let's have the best chance we can. Let's have a solid relationship going into this thing. Let's be in shape. And it just scares me. Sometimes you can create a perfect storm when this kind of stuff happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. Only like I said, only he knows what's happening within the team. You know what I mean? What the reality is.
Yeah.
So I wish him the best, and I still see him winning. I still see him as a favorite to beat Povetkin.
For sure, for sure. And, another part of me is like, man, there's so much to lose in that fight, too. You know what I mean? Because he's been the mandatory for so long for that WBC belt. So,
No, you're right. You're right. He's been there for a little while, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I mean, um, listen, anything can happen in boxing. I see Dylan White as a
see, you scare me when you say that. You scare me when you say that. That's why I bring this up, because you say
yeah.
anything can happen in boxing, and you're right. You're right. Anything can
Yeah.
happen.
I mean, look, anything can happen, but as of right now, I see Dylan White. He's got enough time to prepare. If he must have been preparing for the fight already. Like I
Yeah,
said, I
yeah.
don't know what happened with his coach, but he must have. Maybe he's working with someone else now.
Right,
Maybe his brother's working with him. I don't know. You know, but
right.
he should be ready for this fight come August.
Manny, now that he's left his coach, and considering the fact that he's fought AJ before, he's an elite heavyweight. You've been dealing with the elite heavyweights as of late. If, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, Dillian Whyte was to come knocking at your door, I mean, is that something someone you'd be interested in working with, or would you even have time to work with a guy like Dillian Whyte at this point in your career?
With a fighter like Dylan White, absolutely, I would make the time for him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's a special kind of fighter. When he fought Anthony Joshua, he gave him a run for his money, and he hurt Anthony Joshua at the time.
Yeah.
He actually, caught Anthony Joshua with a big shot, and he was close to not maybe knocking him out, but yes, knocking him down. And that was a good fight. That was a great, good, exciting fight. I believe he learned a lot from that fight, and I believe he's a better fighter now. You know, and he's someone to reckon with in the heavyweight division. So if they were to ever come knocking on my door, absolutely, I would consider it. You know,
I think
there's a lot
that
of things you have to consider you can't just go out there and say yes, yeah, I'll train him. No, you gotta you gotta talk. You gotta see if you can make things work out. Where will we be training? Back in the UK, here in LA, you know, business. I mean, we gotta talk business, talk, the whole scenario, the whole aspect, of course. Where once again, training and sparring partners and so forth and so on, and everything that goes with the preparation, what that goes to, especially a fight of this magnitude. I mean, you need things to be right.
I feel like it would be, a great fit though, Manny, because, not only are you an awesome stand-up guy, which is why, I love dealing with you, but you have that, man, you have that experience that nobody has, particularly against AJ in more than a couple of fights. And
Yeah. All right.
and I feel like, I mean, as valuable as Tyson Fury is, and he's probably just as big as AJ. I mean, AJ's still kind of the golden goose
Mm-hmm.
as well in the heavyweight division. If there are two, he's definitely one of them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I believe so too. And I wanted to ask you that question last time. I was actually thinking about this. Who do you consider to be the cash cow in boxing? Because I had mentioned Canelo, but I was at
Yeah.
Canelo's last fight versus the Crusher Kovalev.
Yeah.
The arena did not sell out.
Wow.
The arena was. I saw a lot of empty seats.
Wow.
Where if you look at Anthony Joshua, this guy's filling out soccer stadiums, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have yet to see Canelo do that.
Yeah, I think the other part of that last Canelo fight that we got to take into consideration, Manny, is the fact that, we had a guy who fought, and this is amazing. I mean, these conversations also always, they kind of flow into stuff that just recently happened or is happening. But Jorge Masvidal, who just fought this weekend, right, in Abu Dhabi on Fight Island, he was fighting Nate Diaz the day of that last Canelo Kovalev fight. Let's not forget
That's right.
they actually
That's right.
waited. Remember, they actually
Yeah,
waited.
I was in the arena. The fights ended rather quickly, and they ended up showing the fight you just mentioned on the big screen. So here we are watching a UFC fight while we're waiting for the Canelo fight.
Right, right, and and unless you're kind of really into both sports, like I am, yeah, I
That was
mean,
fun.
it was an amazing fight. But the thing is, both of those guys, Manny, have such a following. And
Right.
I think if you're going to go up against the UFC when they've got a marquee fight like that, where you're talking about, two of maybe their top five most popular followed guys in Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz,
Mm-hmm.
it was at Madison Square Garden. They
Right.
they sold the place out. And they're saying that Jorge Masvidal, this fight that happened over the weekend, I think it was it did something like 1.3 million buys on
Wow.
ESPN Plus. Yeah, Manny. So
Pretty
I
good.
mean, that's definitely something I want us to consider when evaluating Canelo's drawing power. That being said,
Yeah.
that
I see
being
what you're
said, what we've discussed this before. Anthony Joshua fills out soccer stadiums. I mean, he just does.
Yeah.
And those UK fans, for me, are the
Uh-huh.
most rabid fans in boxing. I think the only people that can touch him are the Mexican fans.
Right.
And I would say that, cash cow in boxing, it's got to be between Canelo and AJ. It's got to be between those two for
Yeah.
me.
Right. No, definitely.
And maybe Pacquiao too. Maybe Pacquiao too, because
Thurman, yeah.
right, because Manny Pacquiao, Manny, I'll say this, whenever I put out any sort of video on this channel that even mentions a Filipino fighter, Manny, the traction can go through the roof. I mean, they are such
Really? Yeah.
die-hard boxing fans as well,
Well, we need more Manny
Yeah.
Where they
yeah.
at? Gotta build these superstars. Yeah. You know, we gotta go searching for them. We gotta go looking for them, because I know Filipino fighters have huge hearts, man. I mean, they put their lives on the line every time they step into the ring, and they always give it their all. And every Filipino fighter that I get to see, that I get to watch live or on TV, they really go to work. They really go to work. They're always putting up great fights.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I mean, our sports are a little bit different, similar but a little bit different. As everybody knows, I promote kickboxing, and Manny, at our last event, which you were in attendance,
Yeah.
our co-main event was Ethan Kiachon against Anthony Workin, and Ethan is actually a Filipino fighter, just incredibly talented. He won that fight, and that's definitely an interest of mine to tap in to that community, among others, because there's just so much talent in these communities, and I hope we can, I don't know, maybe one day bring them out from their countries, or go over there or do whatever we got to do to find some of this talent, because it's everywhere.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So anyway, Cash Cow, your question, and I guess
Yeah. Yeah.
that's my answer.
Your
And
answer is between Anthony Joshua and Canelo Alvarez.
yeah,
Yeah.
and based on
That's
what
about right.
and based on what you're saying, I mean, I might even, as crazy as it sounds, I might even give a slight edge to AJ, just because he's a heavyweight.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. The heavyweight division rules. And now you have Tyson Fury too, so
Right.
he might end up being a new cash cow.
Right. I mean, like you said the last time, when we were bringing up the biggest attendances in boxing history,
Yeah.
and you brought up Julio Cesar Chavez and 130,000
Uh-huh.
people, watching his fight live. I think if AJ and Fury fight
Oh,
in the UK,
Wembley Stadium, the
oh
new
man,
Wembley. It would have to be.
yeah, that
Can't be
is,
anywhere else.
yeah, and that'll
Look,
sell
look,
out.
look, they're talking about Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder at the new football stadium here, where the Raiders are going to be playing,
Right.
right down the street from here. Yeah, I mean that's pretty big too.
And it's not like Deontay. I mean, let's be honest. I love Deontay Wilder, but Deontay Wilder's not the draw there, man. He's not as big of a draw as
But yeah, he's a.
Tyson.
I look. I look. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Not. I was 2 fights ago. One, two, about two, maybe 2, 3 fights ago when Tyson Fury had just signed with his first fight with Top Rank.
Yeah.
He fought here at the MGM Grand versus a German fighter, if
Tom
I'm not
Schwartz.
mistaken.
That was Tom Schwartz.
Was it? Okay, well, the arena was only halfway full.
Yeah.
You know, this is here at the MGM Grand Arena. It was
Right.
only halfway full. It wasn't completely full. I
Right.
was here for that fight. Now, and I've been to Deontay Wilder fights, his past fights, even at home. I've been to Deontay Wilder fights in Alabama, where the arena has been halfway full, and this is in his backyard.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is, boxing fans, you can't fool a boxing fan, a real boxing fan. You just can't. Hardcore boxing fans have been, we've been doing, we've been watching fights for a while. So if you're gonna sell us something, it better be well worth it. If you want us to show up, if you want us to pay for the fight, if you want us to show up to the arena. So people are not gonna be showing up to a fight, the fight that I just mentioned, or they're not.
Right.
They're not. But if you give us Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, hey, we're showing up.
Right.
Look what happened at the Staples Center in LA. It was completely packed. Look what happened here at the MGM Grand. And now they want to do it in a football stadium.
Yeah.
That's the type of fight that, man, people will show up for.
But Manny, don't we also have to look at the fact that Tyson Fury is a guy? I mean, this is a guy from the UK, right? And
Right.
he came out and he fought Tom Schwartz, and only maybe it was half full. But again, This was a guy from the UK. He hadn't fought, I mean, he wasn't. He's not a hometown guy. He's from out of the country. He's fighting a guy who's basically like nobody's had even ever heard of, in Tom Schwartz, and he was still able to draw, I guess, some people. And like you said, it's always going to be about the fight. It's always going to be about the fight.
And then all of those fans were from the UK.
There you go. There you go.
These guys are nuts, man. Them UK fans, I'm telling you, man, they're special, man. They'll travel anywhere, and to any part of the world to go support their boxers. I admire that. I can definitely admire something like that.
I love them, and especially I remember the Conor McGregor fans too, the Irish.
Yeah.
I mean, they also came out for the Mayweather fight and all the other fights.
Let's go back a little further. Let's remember Ricky Hatton.
Oh yeah.
They come and they come and support Ricky Hatton, and it's just crazy the way they did, and the masses, to come and support someone like Ricky, great fighter. Obviously, now with Tyson Fury, they'll go any place.
Well, Manny, you were last where you're at now, as you mentioned, for the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder rematch.
That's correct.
So nobody can give us, the demographics of that audience better than you can. Tell me about it.
It was insane, man. Insane. It was great. It was a great night of boxing.
But was it mostly British? Because for me,
mostly.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably about 80% of the fans at the MGM Grand were British.
Wow.
Honestly.
Man. Wow.
Honestly, man.
Wow.
It was insane. It was just crazy. Everybody singing to Sweet Caroline. I hate that song, by the way. I hate it now. I hate it so much, I sing them with them every time they're playing it. I sing along. I find myself, well, wait a minute, what am I doing? Why am I singing to this song?
Oh, my God.
No, not at all. It's just a joke.
So 80%, Manny, this is a guy from another country. Coming here fighting our heavyweight in our country, in our backyard.
Right.
And we are being, we're being drowned out.
It's just, you know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. In the UK, you don't have that many sports to choose from like you do here in the United States. There's so much to choose from here in the US where, again, I think we talked about this before. We talked about this subject before. You got football, you got baseball, you got basketball, you got hockey. Am I forgetting something? You got the MLS with soccer.
Right.
You got about 5 different major sports in the U.S. And then on top of that, you got the UFC. And then you got boxing. Shoot, man,
Well, here's my retort to that, though.
Right.
Here's my retort to that, because I've heard that used a lot, and I do see that's a valid argument. I do see the validity there. But Manny, we were talking about the Masvidal Nate Diaz fight at Madison Square Garden earlier, and that thing was packed to the brim, Manny. And
correct.
I just. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna tell it the way I see it, because we keep it clean on here. We keep it real. We keep it clean. And I'm an aspiring promoter. I've only been at this for a little bit, but I feel like certain things have worked, and I've learned enough and been watching enough to I feel like make a statement like this. I believe the difference lies, Manny, in the marketing of the event and the marketing of the fighters. That's what I believe. I see a guy like Eddie Hearn able to sell out a soccer stadium in the UK for AJ, but he didn't just do it for AJ, Manny. He did it for George Groves and Carl Froch as well.
Right.
that's when the big numbers started happening for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I don't think there's anybody that's a better promoter, I think, in boxing as far as attracting fans. I don't think there's anyone better than Eddie Hearn. And in MMA, there's nobody better than Dana White. What he did that night.
You're right. But then again, we're talking about the UK, and that goes back to what I was saying.
Right.
Boxing is huge, and they support their boxers in the UK. You know, so you talk about soccer stadiums. It was in the UK. It wasn't here.
Right, Manny, but that Madison Square Garden fight, this 1.3 million that Dana White just did on pay-per-view. I mean, Manny, the UFC is an American-based brand. We've got a sport that's relatively brand new compared to boxing, and all the other sports you're talking about. I mean, the UFC is brand new.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely admirable, man. What Dana White's been able to do in the UFC now. I would like to see him cross over to boxing and promote in boxing and see if he's able to do the same thing.
Yeah.
You know that hey, listen, I would like I said, and I said this before, we need promoters in boxing. Just like you do maybe understand that in the UFC, he's the biggest promoter in the UFC. I mean in MMA, right?
Yeah.
Let's call it MMA.
Yeah.
So he's the biggest promoter in MMA. But what's going to happen when there are other promoters? See, I may be wrong, but let's just go back.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the 1960s, maybe the 1970s, right? Where you had Don King as the biggest boxing promoter, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Dana White is today, 30, 40 years later.
Right.
You follow me? So I believe that boxing has been around for so long that the MMA the MMA has some catching up to do when it comes to boxing, right? And I'll tell you why. What I've been able to see and learn from MMA is that I'm not that well experienced, so this is my opinion.
No problem.
If you go back, I don't know, 15, 20 years, where fighters used to spend a lot of time on the ground, right? Where MMA fighters would spend more time on the ground than they would what do you call it? Stand-up fighting?
Standing up? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you agree?
You know what, Manny? I don't know.
Jiu-Jitsu was so big. And Jiu-Jitsu Brazilian fighters, particularly, were so big. All I heard back in the past was Jiu-Jitsu and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's all I heard about.
Right.
You know,
it was just very successful.
You don't hear about that a whole lot. You don't even hear about Jiu-Jitsu as much as you used to back in them days when they first started with the UFC and the MMA and the sort of competitions. So with boxing, it used to be the same way. If you take boxing back to the 1960s, the 1970s, or even earlier than that, boxing was a lot more brutal, like the MMA perhaps is today.
Yeah,
it was a lot more brutal. If you look at some of the fights back in the day, well, boxing isn't the same way. Boxing isn't what it used to be before, because what do you call it? Evolution, man. The evolution of boxing.
Yeah.
You know, the fighters are a lot more technical now. They're not, because it's evolution.
Right.
You look at fighters like Shakur.
Yeah, they're not just going in there. They're not just going in there and brawling, is what you mean.
Exactly. You got to be able to admire someone like. I'm sorry, man, but you put any MMA fighter or any UFC fighter to fight Shakur, you're not going to touch him. Obviously, if you're going to kick him and do what you would do in the MMA, then you wouldn't last 5 minutes.
Right.
But if you go boxing, or Floyd Mayweather or Terence Crawford, or fighters like Errol Spence, I'm sorry, but these guys are incredible. They're incredible boxers.
Right.
Canelo, Canelo Alvarez, a much better fighter. You know that he's a much better fighter now than he was in the past. And I can mention so many other boxers that are so technically sound and there's only a handful of them, by the way. But man, it's poetry in motion, man. And if you got to be a boxing purist to be able to appreciate fighters such as the ones I just mentioned.
So you think the evolution of boxing into a more technical sport has kind of taken away from the casual fans, I guess, made the casual fans go to MMA?
Yeah, yes, because it's a lot more brutal.
Right.
Because it's giving people perhaps what they're looking for. I've been able to, and I admire the MMA fighters, man. I mean, I admire the fights I've been watching on the UFC because it takes me back to the marvelous Marvin Hagler days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Until you end up fighting somebody like Sugar Ray Leonard, that's not gonna sit there and duke it out with you. He's gonna box you. And at the end of the night, you see Sugar Ray Leonard's hand being raised. A lot of people can argue that, and a lot of people feel that Hagler won that fight.
Yeah.
But at the end of the night, Sugar Ray won, and man, he was an incredible fighter. He was just you look at Muhammad Ali and his style of fighting. Man, he was way ahead of time.
Right.
Salvador Sanchez.
Oh my God!
He was an incredible boxer.
Don't bring that guy up for me. I love that guy too much, man.
One of my favorite fighters.
His fight with Azuma Nelson is an awesome fight to watch,
awesome fight, man. Awesome fight. And
go ahead. I cut you off. You were gonna say something. No. I don't want to cut off your thoughts.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Fighters, these are special type of fighters.
Yeah.
Fighters that come around once every 10 years. You know what I mean? Salvador Sanchez, obviously, Muhammad Ali, the greatest boxer that ever lived.
Floyd Mayweather, Lomachenko.
Also remember this. Of course, Floyd and Floyd Mayweather and
Lomachenko, Andre
Lomachenko,
Ward.
yes. Let me not forget Pernell Whitaker.
Pernell Whitaker, for sure, yeah. for sure.
He was an amazing fighter. But let's go back to the 1960s, 1970s, where Muhammad Ali, his boxing style was not appreciated.
Right.
Let's go. I mean, he was a character. Outside the ring, he was a character. He had a big mouth, and obviously, the whole political thing with him not, going into the military and whatnot. That's a different subject. But his boxing style was not appreciated by many people because he sting like a butterfly, move like move like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Right. Yeah.
Poetry in motion, man. You couldn't touch this guy. Great ring generalship. He showed us a rope-a-dope. His footwork was like nothing we have ever seen, even today.
Yeah. I agree.
What were fans used to watching back in them days?
Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier and George Foreman, bullying people basically.
Yeah. And look what Muhammad Ali did to George Foreman. He boxed the crap out of him and stopped him.
Right. I see what you're saying, Manny. I see what you're saying. Where you're saying it's not as brutal as it used to be. Maybe some of the fans are going. But what I see is, and I'm going to tell you what I see, because, again, we got to keep it clean. I got to keep it real with you. Jiu-jitsu and grappling is still a huge part of MMA. In fact, the best fighters, 9 times out of 10, are wrestlers, unfortunately.
Right.
And I say unfortunately because what happened this weekend, and a lot of people might not like me for saying this, but a lot of people will. What happened this weekend was Jorge Masvidal lost because Kamaru Usman pushed him up against the cage for 5 rounds and just was stomping on his toe and shrugging his shoulder into him. And just trying to get on top of him and what they call lay and pray. And that's how he won that fight. Whenever they did break apart, Jorge Masvidal, who's got better stand-up, got the better of it, but he just couldn't get away from this guy's dominant wrestling. And if you look, if you look at the sport, the best fighters, again, they're wrestlers. John Jones is more of a wrestler, although he could strike. The heavyweight champ Stipe Miocic, he can box, but he's also a wrestler, as was Daniel Cormier. Habib Nurmagomedov is a grappler. He's one of the best there. Kamaru Usman, definitely a wrestler. Henry Cejudo, the Olympic Mexican American Olympian, who referred to himself as Triple C, the greatest combat sport athlete in the world. I don't know if you've seen Henry Cejudo. He retired, but he was a double champ in the UFC and won a gold medal in the Olympics for wrestling.
What?
Yeah, incredibly talented guy. So it's just grappling is still a great part of it. You're right. I do think it's more brutal than boxing. Because the gloves are also, let's not forget, Manny, we're talking about 4-ounce gloves. Yeah. You know what I mean? And when a shot lands, I mean, it definitely lands with 4-ounce gloves. You know what I mean? But what I see, Manny, is a sport that at just between 25 and 30 years old has overtaken every and I'm a kickboxing lover. And I'm a boxing lover, and I grew up playing basketball. I'm a fan of the NBA and NFL and all that stuff. It just seems to be overtaking every sport, but definitely seems to be overtaking combat sports. And I believe, Manny, that the reason it's happening is because of the marketing. Every time you turn on YouTube, Manny, and you dial in the UFC, they've got a project they're working on. They've got
something.
Yeah, they've got the countdown like HBO used to do for the box. Remember HBO used to do that 24/7 for the boxing?
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
I mean, they hardly do stuff like that anymore, but
After Dark.
UFC does that non-stop. They've got the embedded series,
They're always showing fights. I saw Stitch earlier, Cutman Stitch.
Of course, he's been on the show.
He was part of the UFC. Oh, okay, great. I saw him earlier today. And I asked him, so how were the fights? So when did you get back? How were the fights overseas? I'm like, he's like, wait a minute. I haven't worked a fight in the UFC in 6 years. I guess he was banned or fired from the UFC or whatnot. He was telling me the story.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's like, wait a minute. I haven't worked a UFC fight in like 6 years or whatnot. And he's like, I just saw you on TV the other day. You're always on TV. And the reason being is they're always showing fights. Like
right.
Even old fights, but they're always showing fights. So I always see him in a corner, assuming that he's still in the sport. And, but it's the fact is that they're always showing, recent fights, old fights. But they're, like you said, they're always promoting. They're always keeping it in people's heads.
And Manny, they've got so many different shows, whether they're part of the UFC or part of a third party. Like, for instance, like I said, the UFC has the embedded series where they have like a sort of behind the scenes and they follow, the fighters around. They do 5 or 6 episodes before every single major fight. They've also got the countdown, which they do, so that's kind of like the 24/7 that HBO used to do. They've got Dana White's looking for a fight. They've got the Contender series, which was like the boxing's Contender. I mean, it's so much marketing, Manny. It's overwhelming, the different amount of product that they offer us. And
maybe that's where the money's going instead of paying the UFC fighters better.
Right. No, I agree 100%. That is where it's going. They're reinvesting. I think they're reinvesting in the sport more so than the boxing promoters are. And I think that's why the sport's grown so fast. And I mean, there's a point to be made with the payment stuff. I mean, guys are complaining. But at the same time, some of these guys are now starting to get paid a decent amount. They're getting paid a decent amount.
Right?
Yeah,
that's awesome. Dude, if you're putting your life on the line, and especially the way these guys fight, they should be getting paid better money.
For sure. So, speaking of the way these guys fight, we've got a savage in Vergil Ortiz, a young, hungry, up and coming golden boy fighter, which I
Right.
love. I love me some Vergil Ortiz,
Yep.
Manny, and he wants apparently to rush his career along a little bit faster. He's tired of fighting the guys that they've been putting in front of him. He's talking about, at least this is what I'm seeing, in the news and the grapevine. He wants to fight a Terence Crawford.
Right. Right.
Uh, what are kind of your thoughts on Vergil Ortiz? And I know it's probably too soon for a fight like that, but kind of what
I
are your
I
thoughts?
I'll tell you what. That's good that he's calling him out. I've also heard him calling out, or I've heard a conversation where people talk about maybe a possible fight between Errol Spence and Virgil, or
Yeah,
some of the other top names at 147. I like to see him fight a big name in that weight class. It doesn't have to be a champion, but anyone within the top 10, yes.
yeah,
Anybody in the top 10, maybe top 5 in the welterweight division before he gets a shot at a world title. I haven't seen that happen yet. But
right,
he's a special fighter. He's definitely. I said this a couple fights ago. He's probably about anywhere between 3 and 5 fights away from a world title fight. But first, I have to see him fight a top. He's got to show me what he can do with the top contender.
right,
Because
right,
eventually he can't knock everybody out. You just can't.
right,
You can't
right.
knock everybody out. And I may be wrong, but I've never seen anybody that could just go in there and knock every one of his opponents. Because but I would like to see him get tested against a top rated fighter, and I'm sure he won't turn anybody down. I mean, if he's calling out Terence Crawford, I'm sure he'll be willing. He would be willing to fight anybody that's again within the top 10
You know what?
before you can go ahead and say, okay, I'm ready for. Show us that you're ready for Terence Crawford.
Right,
Show us that
right,
you're ready for Errol Spence. Show us that you're ready for Manny Pacquiao. Before you can. But that's fine. That's fine though. That he's he's trying to make a statement. You know what I mean? He's trying to put his name out there and say, hey, I'm ready for the big leagues. I'm ready to fight these top, especially someone like Terence Crawford.
right, right. Who is at this point, Manny, 10 years his elder?
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go. There you have
Terrence
it.
Terrence Crawford is literally 10 years older
Yeah.
than Vergil Ortiz, which is
Wow.
kind of amazing because I always look at Terrence Crawford and I feel like he's just getting started.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, I guess a lot of fighters look, I remember back in the day when you turned 30, that's it. You were like, okay, that's it. You're heading towards the end of your career. Back then,
Yeah, yeah.
right? This was back in the 80s, That's what I mean. It goes back to what I was telling you just a
Evolution,
few minutes ago
evolution.
about
Right,
the evolution of boxing and how
right.
boxers back in the day used to beat the crap out of one another. So by the time they hit 30, that's it. You were in the downfall of your career. It was downhill from there.
Right,
And
right,
now the new age, I guess, for fighters is in their 30s.
right, right, right.
You
That's when
know,
they're hitting their prime. Is like mid 30s, right?
yeah,
Early
mid 30s,
30s.
early 30s, mid 30s, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Where it's like, wow, this guy's 30 something years old. He's old, and look how good he. But now people don't. Heavyweights tend to mature a lot more by the time they hit 30 or in their 30s than when they're younger.
yeah, yeah,
Look at most of the top heavyweights in the world are in their 30s,
yeah. For sure,
or
for
you know
sure,
what I mean?
for
They
sure.
are.
Even, I mean, we even had, let's not forget, not too long ago, we had a 40-year-old Vladimir Klitschko that was still terrorizing the
Right.
heavyweight division.
Yeah, look at Manny Pacquiao. We just talked about Manny Pacquiao the other day.
Wow, he's
And
incredible, man. And
that's
he's not
incredible.
even a heavyweight. How about, and let's not forget, Manny, Bernard the Alien
Bernard
Hopkins, man.
Hopkins. Yeah, they just got better with age, man. Like fine wine, got better with age.
I think Manny, besides, and this is a another opportunity to plug, Foxhound Fuel. I think as as time has gone on, like you said, it's not as brutal, it's more technical, but you also have these fantastic, you know, pre-workout, post-workout, all these different medicines and
Oh
alternative
yeah,
medicines and different ways of training where guys aren't going into the ring and sparring each other to death anymore either. You know what I mean?
correct. Back in the day, you would spar
Wow, man.
every day.
Wow.
And my good friend Rudy Hernandez, great coach, great cut man, one of the best. My another great friend, another mentor to me, another teacher. When he speaks, I listen. He says, "Man, what's up with fighters nowadays? Back in the days, they used to spar every day. Now they're whining and bitching and complaining that they don't want to spar. I have my guys spar every other day. But back
Wow.
then, it was every day, every day. That's old school, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the fight.
That's crazy. What is it? What do you think it? So you say every other day, Manny? I mean, is that the kind of recipe you go with?
I go with every other day, yes. And that
Yeah.
just depends on the. I try to take care of boxers in the gym. I see whenever I see somebody getting hurt or another fighter trying to take advantage of another fellow fighter in the gym. Listen, I try to put a stop to it, and I tell them, hey, listen, take care of your sparring partners. You got to take care of them. First of all, if you don't take care of them, you're not gonna have anybody to spar with.
Right.
Second of all, it's you're in the gym. I mean, I think it takes a bigger person, a bigger individual to recognize and to be able to stop and just slow down. It takes a bigger man to lay off.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
to lay off another man or and say, hey, listen, I'm beating the shit out of this guy. Maybe I shouldn't be doing it. Maybe in the gym, that is. This
Yeah.
isn't a
Yeah.
fight. Maybe I should take care of my sparring partner. Maybe this guy's got to go home. Because what makes you think that you can't hurt someone in the gym, that you can't knock them out, or this guy might end up going to the hospital because you beat the shit out of him in the gym
Right.
when there's
Right.
there's no need for it. There's definitely no need for it.
Right. Right.
But
Man.
yet, a lot of coaches don't do that now. Unfortunately, a lot of coaches just let their fighters get beat up in the gym. I've never met. There's a saying in Spanish. Nunca he conocido un entrenador cobarde.
Yeah. I've
I
never met a cowardly trainer.
Yes, I've never met a trainer or a coach that's a coward. Have
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. I have not. I have not.
Have you? I'm in the gym, and then you got the other coach in another corner, and we got our fighters going. Especially, what's crazy and it's brutal when there's two kids, two amateur fighters, and I've seen it happen time and time again. I just saw it happen. I shouldn't say recently, but a few earlier this year. We had a couple coaches in the gym. Where they're, let's go one more. Well, one more. They had beef with one another,
Oh my
and they had
god.
their kids beat the shit out of each other,
Oh my
and they wouldn't
god.
stop. And it's like, come on, get one more, and I'm like, there you have it.
That's
Some
horrible.
coaches just don't. It's horrible, absolutely horrible, and coaches don't know when to call it quits.
That's why you got to reach out to LBA legends on Instagram
That's
and get
right.
yourself a coach and a manager that gives a shit.
That's right. You have to.
Oh my goodness, Manny. So, kind of real quick back to Vergil Ortiz. I mean, what
Yes,
you know, potential talent? Do you think he can
absolutely,
eventually hang with guys like Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, these guys?
absolutely, absolutely. I believe he can. He's young. That's one thing he's got going for himself. He's young, but he needs more experience. He needs more rounds.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing him go the distance. He fought a great fight versus Antonio Roscoe in Texas. I was actually there because Negrete had fought uh,
Franco.
Franco, yes, and Roscoe fought Virgil Ortiz. They were actually the main event. What a fight that was! Orozco gave Virgil Ortiz a good fight,
Yeah.
but older fighter, and plus he was a 140 pounder fighting at 147, so shorter fighter. Not as big as Virgil. So Virgil did very good. Virgil ended up stopping him, and they Orozco got stopped, but what a fight that was. And I would like to see him fight fighters at that level or maybe higher level in the same weight class before before we can say, okay, this guy's graduated. He's he's now ready for a world title fight. I like to see him do that.
Right, right. You know what kind of surprised me, Manny, was when he fought Mauricio Herrera.
Oh man, Mauricio Herrera was way past his prime.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, but
Way past his prime. I
definitely,
mean, Mauricio Herrera doesn't remember. Mauricio Herrera beat
Gar-
what's his name? Danny Garcia.
he should have, and I think they like
He
ripped
beat
him
him, but
off or something.
they lost in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know.
Well, the thing about the Herrera fight to me was like, my understanding was Herrera had never been stopped.
Right, correct. Never had.
Very durable guy, a
Very
veteran.
durable. Yeah, veteran fighter.
And he crushed him. He crushed him, man.
Oh yeah, he went right through him. But I don't know. Maybe Mauricio Herrera in his prime. I'm not saying that Mauricio would have beat him, but maybe he would have lasted a little longer.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just I'm not taking anything away from Virgil. I think he's a great fighter.
Yeah,
he's an incredible fighter. He's won all his fights by knockout, man. That's pretty impressive. But I would like to see him again go in against someone within the top 10.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Before you can call out, Terence Crawford or any other world champion.
And maybe this is his way of making that happen. Maybe this is his way of getting his promoters to put him in there with the top 10.
Right, maybe. But the promoters, Golden Boy, they're smart. Matchmaker Robert Diaz, Eric Gomez, they're smart. They know what they're doing. And look what they've done with Canelo's career.
Right.
So they know what they're doing. They know how to pick the right fights at the right time. And eventually, we're gonna get that fight. We're gonna get that fight we all want to see. But I believe that he's definitely a world type world. He's got world championship caliber.
Yeah.
He's at world championship caliber. But I like to see him before you call the big names, before you get a shot at a title. I like to see him fight again, someone within the top 10, and then we'll see what happens after that. But
in your opinion, Manny, what is it that makes Vergil Ortiz a special fighter?
He's knocking everybody out. He's giving people what they want to see. He's running through everybody.
Yeah.
He's knocking, and people want to see knockouts, man. People want to see exciting fighters such as Vergil Ortiz.
But skill wise, I mean, do you see something there?
He definitely has skill.
Yeah.
He definitely does. Maybe not like Terence Crawford. Maybe not. I mean, Terence Crawford is a special fighter. I consider Terence Crawford to be one of the top fighters in the world. Definitely in the top 5.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe number 1. Maybe number 1 next to Lomachenko.
I think him and Loma. I think him and Loma are 1 and 2 too. I agree.
Yeah,
with that.
That's what I'm saying. It's an opinion. It's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Don't hate me for it, but or the fans out there, But like I said, he's nobody can switch better than Terence Crawford. Probably one of the few fighters in boxing that's a conventional fighter and can switch to the southpaw stance and do it in such a way that's just incredible. How he can handle both guards is just, that's special, man. It takes a special talent.
Yeah.
What he did to Benavides, I was at that fight in Nebraska. It was incredible, man. I mean, the way he, not only what he was able to do for 11, 12 rounds, but then knock him out at the end of the fight was just incredible.
Yeah, I actually thought that was a really entertaining fight, to be honest with you, Manny. I kind of wish that Benavides, had it been shot in the leg or whatever, because he looked very stiff, but he looked like a good fighter. Like he could have been a very good fighter.
He could have been, but sometimes you you just make the wrong decisions in life, man.
Right,
You
right.
sometimes start hanging around with the wrong crowd and listening to the wrong people. But I remember Benavides back in the day with another great fighter. What's his name? Frankie Gomez.
Mm.
Oh man, Frankie Gomez was an incredible. They both fought each other as amateurs, and they were both great prospects at one time. And both people in boxing thought that these two kids were going to end up being world champions at one point, and they just fell off the face. Like Frankie Gomez just fell off the map, man. I don't know, where is Frankie Gomez.
I have no
And then
idea.
with Benavides on the other hand, with Terence Crawford, he hasn't fought since then.
Yeah.
I don't believe, and he should have been a superstar.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can mention so many other. Panchito Bojado should have been a major superstar. What happened?
Yeah.
That's-
You know what I see, Manny, in Virgil Ortiz that I
yeah.
don't see in every boxer is, man, he's got tremendous explosiveness. He's so explosive. I feel
He
like I feel
he
like
has
if
a chin.
yeah, I feel like if he connects on anyone, he's so fast, man. He's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
fast. I really
He got,
enjoy.
yeah. He's got a chin. I think Orozco tested that chin, and he took his punches very well. But I like to see him engage more in them type, and maybe one or two. Like I like to see him fight a top caliber fighter before he moves on to fighting for a world title.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you bring up Terence Crawford. Every time you bring up Terence Crawford, automatically, Manny, I think of Errol Spence and how much I would love to see that fight.
Oh yeah, we got to see that fight first.
I
We
would
got to
love
see
to
that
see
fight
that
happen
fight.
first.
I would love to see that fight. And I'll be honest, Manny. I thought that would be a pretty straightforward
Hmm.
win for Crawford. But then I watch his fights. I watch how he got hurt against Gamboa. I watch how even this Kavaliauskas guy looked like he hurt him in the last fight. And I say to myself, man, a guy like Errol Spence, who's so solid and so big for that division and can box and has the skills that you've mentioned
Mm.
on past shows, man, I think that's a very 50-50 fight. Very 50-50.
Yep, yep, definitely, definitely. And look at these guys are definitely fighting some of the best fighters out there, particularly Errol Spence. With he fought Sean Porter, uh, uh, now
Kell Brook.
Kell Brook, and that's the type of fight. Remember, that fight with Kell Brook is what made Errol Spence, and that's the fight that Vergil Ortiz needs.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and Errol Spence went to overseas to fight
Right,
Kell
right.
Brook.
That was wild. That was a
Yeah, he
wild
went
fight.
overseas, and Kell Brook beat Sean Porter at the Home Depot Center
Right,
in
right.
LA. So this guy, you know what I mean? He beat the probably the top 147 pounder at the time, in
Yeah,
Errol Spence.
yeah,
But
yeah.
and maybe that's the reason why he's calling out Virgil Ortiz is calling out Terence Crawford. But I honestly, he's a great fighter. I don't take anything away from him. But I don't believe he's ready for someone like Terence Crawford. I think
Right.
he's maybe one or two fights away from that.
I think he could maybe capitalize on a fight if he wants to really challenge himself. I think maybe doing something like a Keith Thurman fight or a Sean Porter fight, that would be very tough too. I think actually,
Yeah. But unfortunately, I don't think. You see, we work. Yeah, Sean Porter. Sean
Danny
Porter, Keith
Garcia.
Thurman, Danny Garcia.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they're all without Heyman. They're all
Right,
not Heyman fighters.
right,
And
right,
to see something like that happen, I see it rather difficult.
right, right.
I see it. I don't see that happening. I see that being very difficult. Those fights very. That's why we don't see Terence Crawford fight Sean Porter and
Right,
Danny
right.
Garcia and Errol Spence and Keith Thurman because they're all without Heyman.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a possibility now because let's remember, in the heavyweight division where Tyson Fury is with Top Rank and Deontay Wilder is with Heyman. So
Right.
if they're maybe it's a possibility.
Could
Hopefully,
happen. It could happen. It could
hopefully,
definitely
yeah.
happen. And I think
Maybe in
now,
December, what we can see in December, and as a co-main event, we could see Terence Crawford fight someone like Keith Thurman or Sean Porter.
yeah, I think, and
I,
I
I don't
think,
I don't hold I don't think Errol Spence, because that would be a main event of itself.
yeah, for sure. Errol Spence. I mean, but we also gotta see how he comes back from that horrible accident he
And it's
had.
been a while too.
Yeah,
It's been a long
yeah,
time. And now with the coronavirus, man, that's not helping. So
yeah, for sure. Well, Manny, believe it or not, man, we're at almost an hour and a half on the show today,
oh
brother.
man.
And
Alrighty. Time to go. Time to go have dinner.
yeah, and it looks like time to go have dinner. Obviously, I wish you the best of luck tomorrow with Mikaela Mayer.
Yep. Thank you.
And so happy to see you back in the corner doing what you love, brother.
Yes, sir, man. I miss it. I miss
And
being in action.
and knuckleheads, that's pretty much all that me and Manny have for today. Thank you so much for
Peace.
joining us. You'll see us again Monday at 7 p.m. Until then, subscribe, like, comment, share, do everything the great people on YouTube do to support the channels they love. And we'll see you next time.